The Cope Environmental Center is a nature education facility in Centerville, Indiana, with over 100 acres of restored wetland, prairie, and forest, and one of the most sustainable buildings on the planet.
The Cope Environmental Center is a remarkable place. We have 140 acres of prairies, wetlands, wildlife, habitat, one of the greenest buildings on the face of the planet. And we welcome everybody to come explore us and check us out and learn more about nature and see what they can discover.
The history of Cope Environmental Center is very interesting, of course. You hear a story about people who love nature. Jim and Helen, their vision, the way they lived their life is an inspiration to all of us. They lived their life in a way that demonstrated such good sustainability of the land and of all the resources that they used. And for them to come together with Francis Parks and create the Parks Foundation as well as Cope Environmental Center in 1992 was really forward-thinking, in my opinion. I think that what they were thinking about then, how things were going in the environment and in the world, they probably never could have imagined the impact that Cope would have on our community and the world today.
And originally, the place where our building has been built was an old cornfield. At the same time, there was another organization, a company that was building a new building, and they destroyed a few acres of wetland. And at the time, the state law was they had to replace the wetland they destroyed at the ratio of 2.5 to 1. So they paid to have 4 different wetland areas put in here at the Cope Environmental Center. And then around the outside of the wetlands, we restored 15 acres of native Indiana prairie, tallgrass prairie. So when you come up to our main building, you're literally driving through the tallgrass prairie. You can see the building, and then off to each side of the building is one of our wetlands.
The thing to me that makes the center so special is the variety of habitats that you can find just in one spot. I love that you can, go out on the prairie and enjoy that, but you can also go over to the wetlands or hang out at the pond. The variety of trees that you have, you think of Indiana as just being, deciduous trees, and so to be able to go and spend time among a lot of different species, probably more species than there is in any one place in Indiana, is really, really special.
We have over 3 acres of trails, so from dawn to dusk they're open and people will park in our parking lot and come out and hike the trails, see what they can find out there. They might do picnicking. We have a play structure for children. In the building, they might come in and ask for information. We occasionally have exhibits in here that people come in to see.
There are so many different places here on the center. So if you want to come learn about prairies, we have a huge prairie that you can explore. If you want to come out here and learn about wetlands, we have a lot of different wetlands that you can do something. And then the old growth forest, we make maple syrup. We have the Jim Cope Conifer Trail with like 120 different species of conifers on it. So lots of different things that you could come out here and learn about and discover. And to have it all in Centerville, Indiana, is just a really fabulous opportunity for people. And then not to mention this building being one of the 30 greenest buildings on the planet is quite an accomplishment for Indiana.
The center recently received their certification from the Living Futures Institute for their Sustainable Education Center, making it the 29th building in the world to receive this certification.
Especially with our Living Building Challenge certification that we've just recently achieved, being 29 in the world is really a big deal. And so a place like Cope Environmental Center, it's very small and is able to achieve this. It shows that small communities can also do that. So it's been great to be able to show that and to share our work and our experience with others in hopes that they'll follow along, and we want to help be part of that.
Our building here at the Cope Environmental Center is based on the Living Building Challenge. It is a set of standards set forth from the Living Building Institute, and it requires us to be net zero energy, net zero waste, and net zero water. So we were able to build a building here that meets all of those standards, but it's also built with materials that are non-carcinogenic and safe to be around people.
Some of the things that are in this building that you don't normally think of is that there's no PVC piping in here because they off-gas, which means that they exude gases all the time that are harmful to people. And so there's no PVC piping in here. They had a special mix for the concrete in the floors that has no formaldehyde in it, which is common in concrete. So that's something that when people work and visit in here, there's not that common gases that are in the air. The building itself had to have a certain percentage of the materials come within 100 miles of here. So there was a lot of work done to find the materials locally.
The process of building the building to be Living Building certified was an arduous one, but it was an important one. So when you think about building your own home, you just go to the carpet store and you pick out carpet or you pick out certain flooring. We were building the building to meet the Living Building standards. We had to know every single ingredient that was in a piece of carpeting, for example, or the paint, or the stain that we were using for some of the wood that you see around the building, which was reclaimed. And that is not easy to get to. It's not like your cereal box where you can turn around and look and see what are the ingredients on that. You have to call the manufacturers of these pieces and that sort of thing. So it takes a little bit more effort to get there, but the building itself then is much more safe.
The center plans to use both its restored land and its Sustainable Education Center to educate the public on nature and sustainability.
The Cope Environmental Center promotes the wise use of the Earth's natural resources through education, demonstration, and research. As our mission, we get up every day to help people connect with nature and to become more aware of how their decisions in daily life affect the natural world around us. So as we continue to educate the public and everybody who visits with us about being more sustainable, to making better choices, and even what plants and animals are surrounded by them, we are able to promote conservation and sustainability for a better world.
A normal day at the center, during the week, it's often pretty quiet during the day. The phone rings a lot because we have a lot of inquiries about having events. You can always tell when school is out of session because you start to see families arriving around 3:30 or 3:45. They're just to go for a walk on the trails, or maybe they're bringing their dog out. Weekends are often very busy. The trails are very, very busy, and the center is also open on Saturdays. So people come through to shop at the gift shop downstairs, and they're also able to take advantage of the trails from dawn to dusk every day.
Local grassroots organizations like the Cope Environmental Center work to foster a love of nature in local communities, which affects conservation across the globe.
The best way to really feel connected to something is to get to experience it. So you can experience the outdoors by coming. You can learn about the animals that live there by getting to meet them up close. So we do have just a few live animals that we use in programming, both outreach and on-site, so that kids and adults can they can get close, they can see, they can understand, they can go, whoa, that is really cool. And then when they see it outside, we hope they'll say, whoa, that is really cool, and say, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of it.
The Cope Environmental Center does best the things that it does for children, I think. Our programs are really, really great both at the center and at the local schools. We have a great partnership with the schools, being able to come into their classrooms. We know field trips are really expensive, and we're very fortunate that donors often fund experiences for classrooms, which means that we can take Cope Environmental Center to them.
And then in terms of the other direction, we take programs out to other places. So we have a very well-used, respected from their nursing home. We might talk about feeding the birds or talk about growing windowsill plants, something like that that they can do in their facilities, their homes.
So I think Cope can help the everyday person get more involved in sustainability by just teaching one new thing every time. And Cope has great programs to teach both kids and adults to live more sustainably.
One of our personal goals is to be able to start working to reach further than this immediate community. We've always been very involved with just the Richmond and Centerville community. We have expanded this year and started really reaching out to more of Wayne County. But I think our next thing is to try to be able to reach out more into the state. This past year, we've done a couple of joint projects to try to get our message out about sustainable living, along with organizations that also care about that, to a greater reach.
Cope is important to the community here because it serves as a place where people can really come and learn about nature, but also just come to play. Whether they are actually going down the conifer trail and trying to identify some of the trees that Jim Cope so carefully and thoughtfully planted is wonderful. To visit the wetlands and learn about that, or just to see the turtles, but learn about why those wetlands are important in the world is great. And so, you can read a lot of that stuff in books, but this experiential moment that you're able to have when you come to the center and walk the grounds or look at a map inside and learn more about why things are where they are, why this building is situated the way it is, there's nothing like that. And so I think it's really important that we're an actual place that you can come and do that.